Okay, let's unpack this. And welcome back to the deep dive. We're picking up where we left off on our exploration of Eritrea, really digging into the sources you've shared.
And just a reminder, this is actually part 4 of our big 7-part series, Eritrea at a Glance.
That's right.
So if you're just tuning in, you might want to go back and listen to parts 1, 2, and 3 first. They really set the stage for what we're talking about today.
Absolutely essential context.
Yeah.
So for this segment, we're aiming to get right to the heart of the country, looking at its culture, the art scene, and its really deep ancient history, all based on the notes you sent.
Yeah, and what strikes you immediately from the sources is how culture isn't just there, it's fundamental. It's tied up completely with national identity.
Integral even to the liberation struggle, the sources say.
Exactly. It wasn't just background noise. The sources describe Eritreans as, well, very culture-bound, deeply proud of who they are, and cultural development was apparently a deliberate strategy during the struggle.
A strategy, how so?
Well, to build unity, strengthen that sense of shared purpose and freedom. And now, post-independence, it highlights sovereignty, aspirations for peace, prosperity.
And it's not just one single Eritrean culture we're talking about, is it?
Not at all. The sources are clear on that. You've got 9 distinct nationalities within the country, and each one has its own rich heritage.
Rich in what way? Like specifics?
Oh, yeah. We're talking unique oral traditions, literary traditions, specific music, dances, even architectural styles, arts, crafts, the works, a real mosaic.
A mosaic they seem keen to show off, based on the notes.
Definitely. This heritage is celebrated, really showcased at major national events and festivals. It seems like a conscious effort to highlight what each group brings to the table.
The organization sounds pretty intense.
It does. There's a national holidays coordinating committee, and they don't just plan things in the regions within Eritrea. They apparently coordinate with Eritrean communities abroad, too.
Abroad. Whereabouts?
The sources mention the Middle East, Europe, North America, even Australia. So it's a global network keeping that cultural connection strong.
Right. And there are some key national holidays mentioned.
Yep, 3 major ones. May 24th, Independence Day, June 20th, Martyrs' Day, and September 1st, which marks the start of the revolution. Big dates.
And reflecting the diversity, religious holidays, too.
Christmas, Epiphany, Eid al-Fitr for the end of Ramadan, Good Friday, Gia's Easter, Eid al-Adha, and Mawlid al-Nabi, the Prophet's birthday. Plus, beyond those big dates, there are regional festivals, youth fairs, cultural contests happening all year round.
Seems like it's promoted quite heavily.
Yeah, the sources say Eritrean media, radio, TV, newspapers give them a lot of coverage.
Okay, now this sounds really interesting. The annual Eritrea Festival in Asmara, the scale seems enormous.
It really does. Every summer, 10 days long. And get this, the sources say nearly 600,000 people attend.
600,000, wow. That's a lot of people.
It's huge. Imagine the atmosphere. It's described as this massive showcase, songs, dances, drama from all 9 nationalities.
What else happens there?
Well, you've got models of traditional homes, arts and crafts displays, food everywhere, traditional rites and ceremonies being demonstrated, artistic exhibitions, scientific ones too, apparently, and even competitions.
A total immersion, sounds like.
Pretty much. And like you said, this isn't just happening in Eritrea. Those diaspora communities organize similar festivals too.
Keeping the connection alive. Now, what about these Raymock Awards? That name is interesting.
Raymock. Yeah, the name apparently comes from the Hidarb language, meaning the beauty of an antelope. It's a prestigious award.
For what, exactly?
Excellence in culture. So literature, music, painting, drama, traditional folklore, things like that.
So it's like actively encouraging and rewarding cultural creation.
Precisely. The prize money mentioned is up to 400,000 nakfa, which sounds significant, and the competition is apparently fierce, starting regionally and building up to finals in Asmara in August.
Okay, moving from the big events, the sources also highlight some, let's say, uniquely Eritrean cultural practices. The coffee ceremony stands out.
Oh, definitely. This is described as way more than just making coffee. It's this whole elaborate ritual. Takes about an hour, usually at the end of the day.
An hour, wow.
Yeah, it's about bringing family and guests together. They scatter fresh grass, roast the green beans right there over charcoal.
You'd smell that, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. The aroma fills the air. Then they grind the beans, brew it in that special clay pot, the jabina. They heat it slowly, repeatedly.
And there's incense involved, too.
Often, yeah. Frankincense burning nearby adds to the whole atmosphere. The coffee itself is strong, served in little handleless cups.
Comes with snacks.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
Things like popcorn, raisins, humbasa, which is a type of bread, other local bits.
And you don't just have one cup and leave.
No, the sources say you're expected to stay for at least 3 rounds. Sometimes they even serve suwa, the local beer, in between.
So it's really about the social connection, the shared time, not just the drink itself.
Exactly. It's a deliberate way to connect and unwind together. Really quite beautiful.
Sounds like it. Okay, what about the food? The sources mention it's quite distinctive.
Spicy and distinctive, yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently widely available, locals encourage visitors to try it.
So what's a typical meal look like?
Well, the base is usually this large, flat sourdough bread. It's called injera, or sometimes taita.
Ah, injera, I know that.
Right. And on top of that, they serve various stews called tsebi, can be vegetable or meat stews.
And you eat it with your hands.
That's the traditional way. You tear off pieces of the injera with your right hand and use that to scoop up the stews and salads.
Interesting. And lots of veggie options.
Seems so, partly because many people observe religious fasting periods throughout the year, so vegetarian dishes are common.
There's also that politeness thing mentioned about invitations.
Oh yeah, the declining 3 times. If someone invites you to eat, the polite thing, according to the sources, is to decline a few times first.
Really? Why?
It's sort of showing you're not imposing, not too eager. You only accept after the host insists, often saying, "Bize kilalim," which means something like, "It's no trouble at all."
Fascinating little cultural nuance there. Okay, let's shift gears. The art scene. Architecture seems like a big story.
It really is. The major cities, especially Asmara and Massawa, have these very visible layers of history. Colonial influences are strong.
How so? What kind of influences?
Asmara is famous for its Italian colonial architecture. We're talking Florentine touches, Art Deco, Futurist, Rationalist, even neoclassical styles, all mixed together. It's apparently remarkably well preserved.
Like an open-air museum.
Kind of, yeah. Massawa, being a port city, shows more Turkish and Egyptian styles in its older sections.
But rural architecture is different.
Completely. Smaller towns and villages reflect the specific traditions of the nationalities living there, much more tied to local materials and climate.
Tell me more about Asmara's buildings. The details sound amazing.
They do. The sources mention things like step towers, nice brickwork details, classical columns, wrought iron gates, curved entrances, porthole windows, gardens, villas with marble stairs. Really quite something.
Any specific examples?
Yeah, they mentioned the region's first synagogue from 1905, described as neoclassical, the Khulafa al-Rashidun Mosque from 1938, a mix of rationalist, classical, and Islamic styles, and the big Catholic cathedral from 1923 in Lombard Romanesque style. Very prominent.
And Massawa? More coastal, maybe?
Yeah, thick covered passageways to escape the heat, houses made of coral blocks, balconies with trellises, carved wooden doors and shutters. Very evocative.
Sounds beautiful. Any specific landmarks there?
The sources mention the Sheikh Hanafi Mosque, which is apparently 500 years old, and ruins of a 16th century Turkish palace overlooking the harbor. You can just picture the colorful dhows there.
And the rural houses adapt to the climate, you said.
Absolutely. In the cooler highlands, you see these rectangular stone houses called hidmo. Flat roofs, dry stone walls. Inside, wooden pillars mark out different areas: sleeping, cooking, even space for animals.
And then the hot lowlands.
Totally different. Circular single-room homes, often made from adobe or sticks and grass, with conical thatched roofs, much better suited for the heat.
Smart adaptation. Okay, what about music and dance?
Again, it comes back to the 9 nationalities. Each has its own distinct traditions, their own dances performed to music from local instruments.
Like what kind of instruments?
Things like the wada, sort of a lute, and the kirar, which is like a lyre. Flutes, drums, rattles, tambourines, too. Sometimes amplified now, apparently.
And used for? Well, everything.
Pretty much. Big life events like births, weddings, and of course all the festivals we talked about. There's also a growing popular music scene in the cities that draws on these traditional themes.
And literature. Beyond the oral traditions.
There's a rich oral tradition, absolutely. Poetry, proverbs, folk tales, songs, histories, legends across all the groups. But written literature has evolved too.
How so?
Before independence, it was often religious stuff. Since then, there's been a lot more new work poetry, plays, novels, memoirs. The sources even say some Eritrean playwrights have had their work translated and performed internationally.
That's quite an achievement. And painting.
Traditional painting, often on skin or parchment, focused on religious themes, fables, abstract designs, sometimes laid out like a storyboard. Churches often have these really colorful, dramatic murals.
And modern painting.
During the liberation struggle, styles shifted. Some very harsh realism depicting the war, but also more symbolic work with social or political messages. Now, portraiture and landscape painting are apparently becoming more popular too.
Theater seems especially connected to history here.
It really does. Traditionally linked to religious festivals, music, singing, acting. But during the struggle, it became a tool
A tool for what?
for telling stories, explaining history, exploring cultural practices, debating issues, and just entertaining people, often huge crowds, short skits, full-length plays.
And since independence.
It's continued to flourish. New plays, both scripted and improvised. Drama during national holidays often reflects on history or current social trends.
Is there a film industry too?
A young one, yeah. The sources mention around 60 movies being made annually. They tend to focus on contemporary social life, stories from the struggle, societal issues.
Okay, let's round off the arts with crafts. Sounds like there's a lot going on there.
Definitely. Pottery is mentioned as one of the oldest crafts. Essential household items like the jabina for coffee, sali pots for stews, water pots called utro, incense holders, but also modern things like vases now.
Weaving and basketry, functional stuff.
Traditionally, yes. Used for food preparation, serving, storage plates, baskets, even lunchboxes made from woven materials. But now there's also a growing market for purely decorative pieces. Mats, wall hangings.
And jewelry. Important for weddings.
Very much so. Fine gold and silver work earrings, necklaces, bracelets, often given as wedding gifts. In rural areas, beadwork is common. And those Orthodox crosses, made of silver or brass, are apparently highly prized.
Leatherwork seems diverse too.
Traditional items often decorated with beads or shells, used for covering stools or drums, but now you also see fashionable handbags, shoes, belts, coats being made.
Where does the leather come from?
Domesticated animals, the sources specify. There's a ban on hunting wildlife for trade.
Good to know. Lastly, wood carving.
Often using pale olive wood. They make picture frames, bowls, shakers, small decorative shields, some functional household items, some just for looks. Sometimes they incorporate porcupine quills, which sounds unique.
What else?
Other local woods are used for simpler furniture, stools, camel saddles, and interestingly, T-shaped wooden pillows, apparently used for protection against bites while sleeping.
A T-shaped pillow. Never heard of that.
Yeah.
What an amazing range of creativity. So, how is all this heritage preserved and studied? Museums? Libraries?
Yeah, there's the National Museum in Asmara,
Yeah.
and it's setting up regional branches. Massawa has one already. Exhibits cover ethnic groups, archaeology, the Independence War.
And the Research and Documentation Center, RCD.
That sounds crucial. It holds archives from the war, historical documents written, and oral histories, photos, maps. They're also working to get back artifacts that ended up outside the country and collecting newer materials.
And the plan is for it to become a national library.
A national library and archives, yes, that's the long-term vision described.
This links into the archaeology, the echo of the ancestors, as the sources put it.
Exactly. East Africa's history is incredibly ancient, and Eritrea has some really significant sites. The museums are the place to see the finds.
Like the Booyah findings. Where was that?
About 110 kilometers southwest of Massawa. They found a female skull there, and importantly, remains of an extinct elephant species, Elephas reki.
Why were the elephants important?
Because they apparently help fill a gap in the fossil record between similar elephant types found further south in Tanzania and Kenya. Those remains are in the Asmara Museum now.
Okay. And then there's Adulis, an ancient port.
A major one. Goes way back, maybe 2000 BC, connecting Africa to the Arab world and Asia. It really boomed from around 240 BC and was the main port for the Aksumite kingdom later on.
After Adulis faded, the Dahlak Islands became important trade routes.
Seems so from around the 8th century BC. Goods like turtle shells, ivory, slaves passed through. They're also identified as an early center for Islam spreading in the Horn of Africa.
Any evidence of that?
Yes, Kufian inscriptions on gravestones dating from the 8th to the 12th centuries. And because water is scarce there, they have these unique traditionally built wells.
And Kohedo and Matera. More archaeological sites.
Described as maybe the most popular ones in the southern region, Kohedo seems to predate even the Aksumite kingdom emerging around 800-400 BC.
Influenced by
The Damat civilization, which had connections to Arabia. The artifacts found there apparently show it was a key trade hub linking the highlands down to the coast at Adulis.
that depth of history is just staggering. Thousands of years. It really puts everything else in context. Are there specific organizations focused on preserving all this today?
Yes, the sources mention mentioned the Cultural Heritage Project or Cultural Assets Rehabilitation Project. Its job is basically to look after monuments, heritage sites, the environment, and importantly, living cultures too.
Who do they work with?
They collaborate with the National Museum, the University of Asmara, local communities, trying to raise awareness and manage these resources well.
Any others mentioned?
Uh-huh. The Asmara Art Club, which supports modern art and music, and the Eritrean Library, which is focused on setting up public libraries across the country.
And some international cultural groups are present too.
Seems so. The British Council, Alliance Française, an Eritro-German club, Casa degli Italiani, and the Bavoni Library are all listed as having a presence there.
Wow. Okay. We have covered so much ground today. I mean, from culture being woven into the national identity, the huge festivals, down to the intimacy of the coffee ceremony and the unique food.
Right, and then diving into the arts, the layers of architecture, the diverse music and literature, the evolution of painting and theater, all those crafts.
And connecting it all back through millennia with those archaeological sites. It's quite a journey.
It really paints a picture, doesn't it? A country where culture is dynamic, deeply valued, and connecting it to the bigger picture, the sources really emphasize how intertwined that cultural identity and history are with national aspirations. Preserving it isn't just about the past, it's about the future they're trying to build.
Yeah, it makes you think about how any society balances holding on to its roots while moving forward.
So maybe something for you listening to think about is, how does culture shape identity in your own world? Or what hidden histories might be right around you? What part of this Eritrean deep dive stood out most to you?
And just a final reminder, this was part 4 of our 7-part exploration of Eritrea, based on the materials you've provided. We've still got 3 more packed parts coming your way soon, continuing this deep dive, so definitely stay tuned for those.